Very good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So, just to begin and set a tone, I would like to share some of my thoughts. India has the fourth largest railway network in the world that carries millions of passengers and tons of freight traffic throughout the year. During the COVID pandemic times as well, the Indian Railways has extended critical services to the government and citizens by transporting migrant workers safely to homes, giving us medical equipment and oxygen access across states, and even built temporary recovery beds for patients. For its tireless service to our nation in this critical time, on behalf of AGI and its members, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to our colleagues from the railways who are joining us today. Needless to say, the Indian Railways, as well as city level metro services, are the lifeline of our nation, supporting economic and social mobilization. With vast assets including railway tracks, signaling system, locomotives, wagons, coaching stock, and stations, the Indian Railways is poised to use digital and geospatial technologies to ensure their safety, maintenance, and upkeep. The Indian Railways has been maintaining asset database for over 15 to 20 years, which is a gold mine for data enthusiasts and can yield valuable insights for planning and improving resource utilization. Today, for this webinar on geospatial technologies for asset management in railways, we have with us a distinguished lineup of speakers from the geospatial industry as well as from the railways ecosystem to share their work, benefits of using geospatial technologies, some challenges, and expectations from the industry. We do hope that through this interaction, more and more users from the railways realize the value of geospatial technologies and are ready to implement it in their work. So, without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Sajid Malik to deliver the opening address. Just a brief introduction to Mr. Malik and his background. Mr. Malik is a chairman and managing director of Genesys International Corporation. He has a bachelor's degree in commerce from the Mumbai University and an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Under his leadership, Genesys International has become a leading geospatial mapping and survey company in India. He has varied corporate experience in corporate advisory, structured finance. He also serves as a member of AGI Governing Council and was awarded the Business Leader in Geospatial Industry by Secretary of Ministry of Earth Sciences. Mr. Malik has played a vital role in the growth of geospatial industry in India. So I hand over the floor to you, Mr. Malik, to deliver the opening address.
Thank you, Mashada. I think you did a wonderful job in educating all of us about what the Indian Railways means to our country. I think if there was a poll taken and people were asked, the average citizen, as to what is one of the biggest national assets that our country has, I think most of us would think of the Indian Railways as one of the premier infrastructures that we have. Though we may be the fourth largest railway network in the world, I think we transport 9 billion people every year, and that's an amazing feat. That's more than the population of the whole world, which the Indian Railways ferries across annually. Besides being the lifeline for people to travel, it's also the goods that reach various parts of our country thanks to the Indian Railways. I'm glad that the AGI is holding these seminars which educate people about the usage of GIS and mapping, especially the more advanced solutions that are available for the better functioning of the Indian Railways. We at Genesys did some very interesting work, and it used to always fascinate me as to what is the ROI that geospatial technologies could give the Indian Railways. I think what we need to do, and I think I'm trying to set the tone here, is that almost everybody who's probably attending this webinar is from the industry, from the geospatial industry, mapping survey industry, and we are fortunate also to have some of the users or people from the railway fraternity who are here. Our goal should be, how is it that we bring about larger realization of the adoption of our technology to the powers to be. We are fortunate in the recent past, we have had railway ministers who have been fairly forward-thinking, Mr. Piyush Goyal, or prior to that, Mr. Suresh Prabhu, who Suresh ji at least was fairly conversant with that technology. And now we have a new railway minister who also happens to be the IT minister and who's a technocrat. I think if we can, as an industry, talk about the various good work that we have done, most of us must have done some work or the other in bits and pieces, which could then be showcase as projects that made a significant outcome to the railways. I'll give you a small case in point. In Genesys, we are headquartered in Bombay. You know that Bombay cannot move without the suburban network that we have. I mean, we have literally whole of Bombay travels on the network. And some of you may be aware that 3,000 people die every year on the Bombay railway tracks, 3,000 people. So we did a exercise for them where we, using LiDAR, we did a infringement analysis and showed that most of these people are people who are hanging outside the train compartments and they hit themselves on the poles which are nearby. And currently, it's still, unfortunately, even now, a lot of this infringement analysis is done on a manual level. We could demonstrate as to how we could do this in an automated and a far more scientific manner and literally save hundreds, if not thousands of lives just in Bombay alone. We did a similar other exercise for the railways where we helped through geospatial technologies, the outcome being that eventually can we make the trains run faster. You know that if we can increase the average speed that the train runs, you're talking about, so hypothetically a 30% increase in speed would translate into a 25-30% increase in capacity of the Indian Railways, and that number is huge. So we need to start thinking in terms of how do you translate in terms of outcomes, both monetary as well as non-monetary. It could be safety, and it could be other ways to improve efficiency. I know for a fact that across the length and breadth of railway land, there are huge assets which are in a non-digitized manner. Is there a way that these can be digitized? Can we? I mean, I know that Rahman Saab is there from the railways, and there is a person from the Delhi Metro. Can we start making inventory that how much money has actually been spent by the Indian Railway network in geospatial technologies? Can we as an industry get together and quantify how much money has got spent? Railway is one ministry which has got its own budget. That's the size of the Indian Railways. So can we, if at the end of this seminar, if we can, and through the leadership at AGI, if we can start making and quantifying outcomes and what has been the benefits of that outcome and sensitizing it to the powers to be, people who take decisions, I think that would be a very good start. I don't think much is really needed to, at least from my standpoint or from many of the people here standpoint, in trying to convince each other about how useful this technology is. I think success is if we can convince the people who have to use this technology and adopt this technology and who control the budgets to say that this needs to get done. The new geospatial policy is very, very forward-thinking. It shows that the Prime Minister's office itself is very prone to seeing to it that the all ministries use geospatial as a way to improve their functioning. It is our responsibility as an industry to evangelize projects and outcomes that we can go and demonstrate and then see that speedier adoption takes place with geospatial. I think on this note, I leave it to the other eminent speakers to speak about their experiences, what they believe should be done. But I again end my opening remarks with one, repeating the same point. Let this exchange result in better understanding of our technology with the people who make the budgets and who drive decisions. I don't think there is much debate on the usefulness of our technology or what it can do. So, but it's important for us to make the right people be aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and definitely we've taken note of your suggestion, and I think it's a good, it will be very useful for this industry as well as the users to make an assessment of how much money has actually been spent for geospatial technology adoption across the railways, and what is the kind of benefit that has come out of it.
Right.
So that's a work for us, and
Yes.
with the support of our industry friends and user colleagues, we would be doing that.
Yeah, just make a, send a questionnaire out to all the companies and say, what does the railway vertical contribute to you?
Yes.
And what are the projects that have been done and how successful have they been? Have the end users found them beneficial? I think that's where the rubber meets the road. So
Sure. Great. Thank you so much for your address, Mr. Malik.
yeah.
And with this, we move forward to the program. We have with us Mr. Shailesh Shankar, who will be delivering an industry address. Shailesh is the manager, sales engineering, Asia Pacific for Maxar. Over the past 20 years, he has been involved in the formulation and implementation of numerous geospatial projects, working with prominent companies in the industry. With a deep understanding of the all-encompassing implementation of geospatial technologies, from data capture to system integration, and his background and love for earth sciences, he brings in a unique dimension to unraveling challenges and bring real-world solutions. So with this, I hand over the floor to you, Shailesh.
Thank you so much, Megha. Just to confirm, I'm audible and my slides are visible.
Yes, both.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's definitely a privilege to actually be part of this, and thank you, Sajid sir, for setting up the tone, and Megha to actually have put the entire, set the tone for this particular session. Now, when we look at uh, space, so let me start with what we can do with space. Lots changing. I mean, if you're following the news and if you're following what's happening in the space segment, this is one segment which is actually growing and it's actually changing at a very, very rapid pace. Just take Maxar, for example. Not talking from basically because I'm from Maxar. Yeah, I do have this is access to the slides, so it makes it life easier. But overall, if you look at even the other space industries, the other companies in space, so many startups coming up. Even India as a country, we are actually talking about opening up space and actually letting in a lot of startups come in. So what does it mean? And for companies like Maxar, who are well established, who have been, the age-old pedigree, we are also ramping up in different ways. So, for example, traditionally in the year 2000, we had one satellite in constellation. Then 2001, one more. So it was every 2, 3 years, one satellite going up. By today, we have 4 satellites in constellation. But look at the way we are looking at ramping this up. We are launching 6 additional satellites by starting of next year. So end of this year, 2 satellites going up, and by first quarter of next year, 2022, we'll have additional 4 satellites. So you suddenly have the constellation of 4 satellites going up to 10. What does this mean? So what basically, I'm not sure how this video is going to come up to you, but what I, in a sense, want to tell you is the amount of data capture that's going to happen in each and every place is phenomenal. And what's more interesting is the technology that is coming behind this and what's enabling, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's, leveraging all this data and the, high performance computing to create large area mosaics. These are some of the things which I want to touch upon in the next few minutes. Now, what I wanted to do spend is obviously there's a lot happening in the satellite space, but I wanted to touch upon how this impacts from a rail perspective. So, railways has been doing a lot of work. I mean, it's kind of the most one of the oldest industries in the in is available, and obviously they have been using technology, some of which I know is very old, very robust. It's set, so nothing much changes. But many places they're also looking at changing industry. And Indian Railways has been looking at mapping their entire assets. And one of the key advantages which space can now provide is high resolution satellite base maps. So traditionally, what was happening is if railways wanted to do a mapping of all their assets, they would have to actually procure long strips of imagery, process them, convert them into base maps, and then start extracting. Now, what's happened is with the advent of high performance computing and we being able to leverage the cloud infrastructure, the end customers like railways don't have to actually bother. So we have a living base map, a living digital map of the entire globe, and we refresh this every year. So we keep collecting imagery, and these are all high resolution, better than 50 centimeter resolution. We take all this data and we keep refreshing the map. So you have a base map, which is a living kind of thing, which is getting constantly refreshed. The other key advantage is that these maps have an inherent accuracy. So traditionally, again, see, railways, roadways, any other infrastructure projects, they're not mapping agencies, right? They honestly, it's very unfair to put the entire burden of image processing or all these kind of technologies onto them. Rather, provide them with a ready-to-use data with which they can actually roll and, as Sir was saying, as the rubber hits the road, they should be on. They should be just going off. So the example which you're seeing on your screen is over Nagpur city. So an entire clean, clear mosaic which is created over Nagpur city, and you're in the inset, you're seeing actually a zoomed in version of the Nagpur station. But essentially, what you could do is plot all your assets onto this map. This map keeps refreshing on a yearly basis, and you keep capturing all your fresher assets. Now, when you want to capture, obviously you will say that there are very fine details, and this is my interaction with many of the railway officials which have been done, which have been that we need to look sometimes at very coarse features. I mean, for example, just the rail line going along, I just mark that out. But many times I need to look at very, very fine resolution. That's where there's been another technology enhancement. So while all the sensors are capturing at better than 50 centimeter, in fact, the entire worldview lesion will be actually capturing at 29 centimeter resolution. So all 30 centimeter capacity. But what we have been able to do is also create a technology which can enhance your traditional 30 centimeter imagery to 15 centimeter pixels or 50 centimeter imagery to 30 centimeter pixels. No, this is just not interpolation. I mean, I can always take and divide pixels, 1 pixel by 4 pixels by 6. I can do that, but that is not what this is. This is a machine vision algorithm, and that's where I show you a side-by-side example. To the left, what you see is a 30 centimeter image, and this 30 centimeter image is at scale. So both these images are at their native resolution. So I've ensured that they're zoomed at their native resolution, at their, whatever pixel resolution is there. So this is exactly the same image at 30 centimeter. This is exactly the same image which has been enhanced to a 15 centimeter high definition imagery. What you see, for example, and this is the kind of detail that you get, all the poles, right? The electrical infrastructure, a metal temporary bridge, and this is over New Delhi. This is just back door. Infrastructure, lot of material which is actually lying. This has been kind of common, right? A lot of material, whether it's aggregates, whether it's earth dumps, whether it's the sleepers, they are stacked up along the rail lines, right? And many are used, many are not used. There's a lot of wastage. A great way to actually identify where these are can be a machine learning tool which actually identifies along the rail track where these are. Another great idea which I can put in is identifying the rolling stock. So to keep a count of rolling stock in each and every area, traditionally you had to do a physical audit. I mean, I remember in my earlier days, we were discussing about keeping an RFID tag so that as the train passes, there would be, the tag would actually hit up a reader, and then you can count the amount of rolling stock. Now it can be even a space-based solution where each and every bogie, for example, is actually visible, and you can count the number of bogies which you can see. Uh, Encroachments is a big thing. So we know places like Mumbai, Delhi, and even smaller cities, the land along the railways, along the right of way, is a big challenge, and maintaining that land is again a big challenge for you. So identifying encroachment, identifying any even small shanties which are coming up now becomes a possibility because of the high resolution data that is currently available. And not only from going from a 2D perspective, but from a 3D perspective. And let me share with you an interesting use case. So we had a customer uh, who were into designing, designing the rail corridors, right? Now, traditionally, they would procure a lot of stereo satellite imagery to create an elevation model, do a kind of a rough feasibility around the area, uh, do their initial detailed project plan, and then deep dive using field surveys and using very in-depth LiDAR surveys to do the detailed design. But now what's happened is COVID has suddenly struck. So the ability to actually go on field is drastically reduced. So past 1.5 year has been a very different situation where uh, you really cannot send people on ground as easily as you were able to. And that's where technologies from a space perspective, where you can remotely sense, collect elevation data. And this is an example from the Maxar 3D. This is an area over Mumbai where we can produce elevation data without any ground control points with a 1 meter LE90 accuracy for large spans. I mean, large areas, we can actually create the entire elevation data and deliver it. So, for example, we have been delivering like 2,000, 3,000 square kilometer in roughly around 3 to 4 weeks kind of time frame, without any ground, nobody being on field. So that's a big advantage. So for your initial design plan, you really don't have to go back to your traditional methods. There are technologies now available where we can leverage satellite and we can pick up. So there's another example over Delhi, and where you can see basically the flyovers, and I've just put it side by side. So you're seeing the digital elevation model as well side by side. So not only are you getting the high resolution picture, the two-dimensional picture of the entire area, but what you're also getting is the height information. So for example, the specific reason why I put this up is lower, you can actually see the metro rail. Towards, you can see the flyovers, you can see the slip roads. So if you're planning a rail line which is going to pass through this area, you need to know the height and elevation information of each of this infrastructure, because you will then plan whether to take your line above this, or if there is space, or you want to divert this. All these kind of detailed designs you can actually do. Obviously, I'm not saying that this is a replacement for the very high precision field survey or the LiDAR survey, but this can actually help you do your detailed project plan, and the final alignment which you have picked up, you need to survey only that one. So it actually saves a lot of time and cost, because then you are actually focused, and the changes which will happen on ground when your team is actually on ground will be far lesser compared to what it would have been if you were doing in a traditional method. Finally, I also wanted to share with you this example. This is a 15 centimeter HD image over Iluru in Telangana. And again, I was mentioning about the right of way, right? So what I've done here is I've taken the center line of the railway track and plotted a buffer of 30 meters on either side. So the orange line which you see is the 30-meter buffer on either side. So this is the right of way, and the one is a 50-meter buffer, right? So if you take a 30-meter buffer, typically you can see what are the areas. You can also see what is the garbage dumps which is actually placed. I mean, this is a weird kind of problem, because wherever we find land, and I'm sure many of the friends in the railways would realize this problem, because it becomes actually a wasteland. It becomes a landfill site kind of thing, which later on, when you have to expand, when you have to maintain, it becomes a really big problem. Similarly, as I said, encroachment is a big challenge. So trying to maintain and many of your land is in high value areas. So managing that is a key challenge. I also heard, I'm not sure, I didn't keep track of it, but there was talk about uh, monetizing the land assets which is available. So for example, if this land is near a station, you would want to actually give it out on lease for shops to come out, for so that way you can monetize. One of the key reasons to be able to do that is to place your cadastral data on here and actually map it out very accurately, so that you know where is your land and what is that you're going to lease out. Similarly, I know power companies do this, so transmission line companies, etc., lease out the right of way for farming. This is something which you could do as well to monetize, because I know in India farmers are anyway doing it. So you give this piece of land, I'm sure this guy will shift up a little ahead. He's a nice guy, he's not doing it, but it's very easy to actually shift up and use your land for plantations as well. So it's a good idea for from a monetization perspective to give this up. But the first primary reason thing that is needed is to map it out properly and have it all in the geospatial environment. And the satellite data will become a base for all the, just wanted to mention, for all the major national land records program in the country, satellite technology is the foundational base that is being used. The key advantage is it's much more faster over actual physical service. And of course, in this COVID scenario, it's anyway bit challenging. There is always, you can actually fly drones, or you could actually do an aerial, but then there are restrictions there in terms of, so the kind of leverage which satellite data is able to give you now, the kind of resolution, you really don't have to go for that level of that kind of technology. Finally, also just wanted to cover a monitoring aspect. So when there are large projects which happen, this is, for example, the arch bridge which is being constructed over the Chambal, which is completed in April. Sorry. This is an example of 2019 when it was being constructed. So over time, you can actually have a view, a snapshot view, and this is an advantage when the satellite is constantly capturing. You can target areas of interest where the project is going on. You could actually do the entire project monitoring from a satellite base because of the resolution. You can actually see what's the level, I mean, how much, at what point the construction has happened. So this is an example of a later view. This is of 2021 in January, where you can see the arches were actually being pulled up. You can even see the strings or the ropes which are actually providing the tension to the arch bridge. So this is in a nutshell. Just to summarize, space technologies are moving in a very rapid pace, and from a rail perspective, considering the volume, considering the size, it is extremely important to leverage this technology. It can actually provide you a lot in terms of scale. A couple of key applications which I mentioned. One is mapping your assets. So it can provide you that essential backdrop. So even if you're doing a simple thing, you use Google Maps anyways many times when you're trying to track a particular one of your locos which is actually moving in, right? So a very clear backdrop of map, from the basic application of putting it as a backdrop to actually mapping each and every asset, whether it's an electric asset, whether it's the rail track itself, whether it's material which is left in certain dump sites. All this can be tracked and monitored. Land assets is a big thing for you. So for mapping the land assets itself, the satellite data would provide you a very huge value. And finally, definitely for monitoring your projects, and one thing which I did not cover is definitely in case of disaster response. There is obviously, we are in a country where cyclones or these kind of issues keep happening. So for any of these, it's very important for you to know exactly what's the damage, how you can actually go back. So for all these applications, satellite data is kind of critical. With that, I finish my session and I hand it over back to Meghna. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shailesh. Thank you for your very interesting talk, and it's really interesting to understand, what are the new kind of developments coming up and what we can expect in future from the satellite data and solutions domain. So with this, I would like to now invite our next speaker, Ms. Saranya M. She is Senior Engineer at ESRI's Pre-Sales team, and she has a Master's in Environmental Engineering and Management and PGD in Remote Sensing in GIS. She specializes in designing GIS solutions for railways, roads and highways, and mining industries. Her interests include exploring the potential of GIS in improving the organization's efficiency and day-to-day life of individuals. Her newfound obsession is all things AI and ML. So with this, I hand over the floor to you, Saranya.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Megha. Can you confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my immense pleasure to be presenting in this event today. And we have a very interesting topic to discuss, which is geospatial technologies for asset management in railways. As Megha mentioned, I'm a senior analyst in S3 India, and I work very closely with several transportation users. And asset management is one application that is very close to my heart, because I believe with the power of GIS and simplicity of mobile applications, this could bring a lot of value to several organizations. So let's start with the basics. GIS. So most of you know and are currently using GIS in your organization. So when we say GIS, it has several applications. It is sector agnostic. So we find application for GIS in telecommunications, defense, forestry, environment, etc. And when we talk about application of GIS in transportation industry, it finds its application in every step of the transportation life cycle. For example, beginning from the design stage, if you have your CAD drawings, GIS will help you bring like a location intelligence to your CAD drawings, so that you can view all your CAD drawings, Revit files, everything in its real world coordinates. Even pre-construction activities like understanding the terrain, what could be the terrain of the land in which you have planned your future projects, and what is the cut and fill required, all sorts of analysis, GIS comes in handy. Even during construction also, we have several mechanisms which help us in real-time monitoring of how construction is progressing. All these applications are possible. What you see on screen today is a few areas where I work closely. We have asset management, and today I'll try to cover something in detail, which is AI/ML, which as you all know, I'm very passionate about. So we will see how we can use AI/ML for asset management in railway asset management. We'll also see what are all the possibilities of real-time data integration. So it all begins with knowing where. In spite of the recent advancements in transportation, rail still remains the most cost-effective mode of transportation. And for rail to reach its full potential, there is a greater reliance on technology, information system, and a real-time decision support system. So this calls for integration or leveraging the location intelligence. These days, so many jargons gets thrown today, like big data analytics, cloud computing, data-driven analytics, artificial intelligence, deep learning. So what is common in all these are two elements. One is the power of your data and information, and one is the power of knowing where. These two elements combine together and gives you a framework which we call as location intelligence. At its basic, location intelligence just means that we need to understand where all of our assets are located and their condition. This is what will help us prolong the life of all the assets we have. So where does GIS come in this? GIS helps you in three things mainly. It is a system of record, So you have information coming in from several sources. You have your AutoCAD drawings, your Excel files, your PDF, text documents, designs, everything. You need to keep them in a single place, which we call as a system of record. You can have your SAP integrations, ERP integrations, all can be done easily with GIS. Then system of insights. Once you have all the data, we need tools to analyze them. So for all these things, GIS comes in really handy, and data is one of our valuable asset. And the issue we face these days is, even though we have a lot of data, they are present as independent silos, or they are kept in disjointed systems. It is absolutely essential to connect them all together and bring it in as a centralized system, so that we can take full advantage of our currency, which is data. So one such data I would like to show you today, one such application I would like to show you today is dynamic track charts. We all know that track geometry forms the foundation of all our railway operations. Whatever work we do, be it field inspections or our route planning, tracking, real estate management, everything revolves around where our track is and what is the condition of the track. So we have been using track charts for so long, and this is one sample application which is customized for one of our global partners, where we are trying to integrate these track charts with the GIS system. So here you can see that we are trying to bring these track charts on our GIS map, so that we can see these charts in relation to our surrounding environment. This gives us a better perspective of our track data. We can also view them in addition to our existing environment features. For example, you can see the river here. The same feature can now be visualized better with a GIS map. These type of integration or with GIS help us get a better perspective of all our data and assets, so that we can improve our operational efficiency. So today we wanted to talk about smarter rail, how we can achieve smarter rail with location intelligence. But what are all the components that makes a rail smart? It could be several things. It should have a good state of repair. The downtime should be very less. It should have smarter infrastructures. We should manage our real estates and leases, everything efficiently. So let us break it down one by one. So as we said earlier, managing our assets is absolutely essential to prolong the life of these assets. So how does Esri help in this? We provide several mobile applications which are easy to use on the field, and the data you collect on the field is integrated immediately to the database in your corporate office. So you can always be confident about the accuracy of the data, and also be confident about the pace in which the whole project is progressing. The second thing is reducing downtime. So as we said earlier, we have several silos, we have several divisions in railways, and we have several contractors who help us out in the whole project. And there is a need to integrate all these data. We have to ensure that all of them have the right data. So GIS helps you in maintaining a uniformity in all the data, so that we can make better use of the time we have and reduce all the downtimes. And these days, several modern rail agencies are moving towards the concept of real-time integration. So what real-time integration offers is the ability to foresee what could happen. So the sooner you know, the sooner it is resolved. Any issues, the sooner we identify, the sooner it gets resolved. So Esri works closely with several organizations like Cisco and IBM. We integrate several of their real-time and IoT capabilities, so that all the real-time data can be integrated easily into our system. For example, if we have a geo event server, which will help you connect several real-time feeds into the GIS system. if you have large amount of real-time data and real-time data feed coming in, you can leverage the Geo Analytics server, which will help in the big analytics of all the data you have. If you're not interested in on the on-premise solution, you would like to go for a cloud-based solution, even there we have several options. In addition to ArcGIS Online, for real-time, we have ArcGIS Velocity, which will help you do all these real-time workflow without the need for maintaining the infrastructure. The next one is managing real estate. I could not stress the importance of GIS in managing the real estate, because GIS helps you in bringing all your land parcel data into a single page, so that you can visualize what piece of land belongs to you, what piece of land is no longer yours, is there an opportunity to monetize the land that is unused. So all these type of analysis can be carried out easily using GIS. The next application is lease management. So let us say we have identified few unused lands and we are leasing it out. It is essential to maintain all the legal agreements, property boundaries in one place. As we said earlier, maintaining a single source of truth becomes very essential, especially in such legal matters. So Esri provides you several tools that can empower you to carry out these lease management related activities with so much ease and confidence. The next thing is improved operations. So now we have in addition to several divisions in railways, the work they do is also different. So there is a need to span through all these data and come up with few key metrics that will actually drive our efficiency or improve our operations. So GIS will help you identify these with very powerful analytic tools. We have several geoprocessing tools and solutions like ArcGIS Insights, which will help you look at all the data you have, remove the ones that are unnecessary, and take all the useful information that will actually help you in improving the efficiency. So to improve the operations, GIS can be really helpful. Seamless supply chains. When we come to talk about all the shipments, all our customers want 24/7 visibility, transparency of where their shipment is at any given point of time. So GIS provides you this option where in this real-time reporting can really help improve our customer satisfaction. The next thing is environmental management. So when we are working on a new project and there is a new project that is proposed, it is essential to understand the sensitive environment we are working in. Are there any eco-sensitive zones? Is there a way to tread these areas without disturbing the existing flora and fauna? GIS help us get a better understanding of where we stand in the project. So it is easy for us to continue with our progress without disturbing the environment. Even in disaster response, it is absolutely essential for the field crew and the decision makers to know what lies in front of us as the events unfold. In such cases, it is absolutely essential that both the decision maker and the field crew have the same set of data with the same accuracy, or else the whole operation could get very confusing. So for disaster response, GIS can really help out. In addition to this, we also have several tools which improve the safety and security of your everyday operations and incident managements. Coming to the next application, as the speaker before me insisted upon the importance of identifying the encroachment detection using satellite data, we can leverage the power of the satellite data and GIS together to understand how the land we own is changing over time. Are there any new buildings cropping up every year? If there is, how can we identify it automatically using the tools we have with us? Are there any workflow which will help us resolve such conflicts? All these workflows can be done easily with GIS. And we can also have powerful tools like operation dashboards, which will help us keep track of all the right-of-way permits we have, when it is expiring, how we should handle it, how do we get the inventory of all the ROW we have. All this can be done very efficiently. So once we have all the data in a centralized location, it then becomes essential to share this data with others in our organization. We need some web applications or tools which will help us share the data we have, share the analytics and the outputs we have to all the stakeholders, decision makers, field crew, your GIS team, satellite imagery analysis team. All of them should have access to all these things. So that's where our WebGIS capability comes in handy. This will ensure that you can decide with whom you should share the data and what level of permission do they have. Sorry. All, the next dashboard I would like to talk about today is fault monitoring. So once we have identified all the faults in the particular line, we can present them in a dashboard like this, which will help us in having a drill down approach, which will help us doing it area wise, sector wise and zone wise, so we can get a comprehensive understanding of all the data. So a few other dashboards which are available globally. We can have a railway line monitoring dashboard, which will show us what could be the average speed, how many kilometers are we covering, what is the train volume that is transported, both freight and passenger. All these type of analysis, we can view it in a single comprehensive dashboard. We can also have tools like this to show us if there are any delays in the dashboard, we can present to them, to the decision makers. So all the necessary decisions can be taken on time. If you have the feed of your live train status, we can integrate them with the GIS solution. So we can have live train updates available to all our stakeholders. The next thing I would like to talk about is how we can do asset inspection with field apps. Ideally, no matter which industry we are working in, some amount of field activity is absolutely necessary. And in the traditional system of using pen and paper, or where we have to write down every detail of the inspection and then feed it on to the computer system, can be really time consuming, and which has room for a lot of error. We can reduce all these things and improve our efficiency using several mobile apps or field apps. We have options for form-based applications. We also have map-based application. For example, if your entire field work involves filling so many details on the field, you can go for a form-based application. Example, survey 123. Once you install the application, you can simply use the drop-down list and enter all the information, geotag any photographs you take. If you want to attach any documents, say PowerPoint presentation, videos, text files, Word files, you can attach them and submit. It will be immediately available in the corporate database. Let us say you're not interested in form-based, but you're more interested in a map-based application. Let us say you have identified a few encroachment areas, and you would like to go and mark the boundaries of where the encroachment is actually taking place. In that case, you can use an mobile app like Collector, which will help you navigate to that particular location and provides you with simple tools where you can digitize on the field itself. So these type of applications will help us drive our field inspection activities and make it more efficient. In addition to monitoring your assets, we can also monitor the progress of any work that has been awarded to your team members. For example, let us say I have several priority assignments on the field and it needs to be monitored in real time. So dashboards like these, which will help us in carrying out our asset inspection operations very efficiently. We can also have a workforce based dashboard where you're tracking the status of all of your employees. This type of dashboard can become really helpful in case of disaster response, where you know the location of every person who is involved in the rescue operations. In case there is no connectivity, we need to locate these people and expedite the operation. In such cases, these type of dashboards can be useful. These such type of dashboards are mainly used in mining, where the location of every miner it's important to know the location of every miner in case of an unfortunate incident. The rescue team knows how to locate and identify them. Let's talk about some of the technology enablers, which several agencies are like using these days. The first one is a digital twin. So once you have all the plans or designs of your project, it is essential and useful to have a digital twin or a replica of your study area or project, which helps us visualize all the factors that could influence our decision making. So what you see on the screen is an application called City Engine. We developed this digital twin or a 3D twin using an application called City Engine, which is very useful, especially in urban planning scenarios. So what it does is, in addition to the project you're working on, we can also get a better look and feel of the surrounding environment. So it becomes easy for our decision making and other works. The next one I would like to talk about is how we can leverage artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. for asset monitoring. So in general, artificial intelligence is the ability of the computer to do tasks which require some level of human intelligence. And machine learning and deep learning are just subsets or the way to achieve artificial intelligence. Now, ArcGIS has made this technology very accessible to all our users. So even if you're not good at computer programming, you have no prior experience in working with data science or AI, ML, deep learning, you can easily use these tools in your current project. So what you see on screen right now is LiDAR data or point cloud data of the railway assets. So what people do these days is they use mobile LiDAR to capture all their railway assets as the train moves. So once the LiDAR data is captured, these point clouds are further classified to identify the railway assets. Identifying or classifying can be done easily using several deep learning algorithms, which ArcGIS helps you leverage. For example, you can use point CNN algorithm that is available with ArcGIS API for Python to classify all these point clouds. And not only there, you can also extract several dimensions from it. So here you can see we have tried to extract pole heights, catenary heights, sorry, top fittings, bottom fittings, etc. Not only this, we have several other applications like if you want to find any kinks in your railway tracks, are there any deformations in your cantilevers? All these type of analysis can be done by leveraging the power of imagery or artificial intelligence and GIS. When we talk about real-time analytics, we need to integrate several real-time data, and Esri provides you the necessary tools in which you can integrate the data or feed from several sensors. So you can have a live map layer anytime you want. And we have different options. You can work on with on-premise solution or cloud solution as well. Cloud solution is very easy to use, since there is no worry about maintaining the infrastructure. And what these helps you achieve is to monitor your critical assets 24/7. Not only can you track your static assets, you can also track your dynamic assets, like where your shipments are going or where are your freight rails. These type of RFID based analysis or GPS based analysis can really help in monitoring all our assets. We can also have solutions for geofencing. Example, you have a very precious cargo that you do not want to leave this particular boundary. We can have a geofence based alert system. So whenever that cargo leaves that particular boundary, you get alerts about its movement. So all these type of data can be, all these type of analysis can be done. And the issue with real-time analytics is, once you have data coming in every second, every millisecond, you kind of accumulate so much data, and there could be data which provides you no value. In such cases, several analytical tools will help you unlock all the spatial information that is available with your data. So I would like to come to the end of the presentation with a small case study. So what you see in front of you is a snapshot of Kalangwali Mass Rapid Transport project, where they wanted to improve the efficiency of their project by at least 30 to 35%. So they chose to go for a digital transformation, which had 6 main initiatives. The initiatives are incorporating building information models, GIS, reality capture, 3D laser scanning, digitizing their construction management, and incorporating mobile apps for their like day-to-day operations. Integrating their building information model help the whole team understand what they are going to build, where are all the technology gaps, and where are all the supply chain gaps very easily. And GIS help them maintain all these data in a single place and leverage the value of that data. They also created several 3D mesh models by using aerial photography, and this, which was then used for site progress monitoring. And as the mass rapid transit was built, they used the laser to scan that area, get the 3D data, and created a 3D model out of it, which was then used for virtual reality kind of analysis of the whole area. And they also used dashboards for construction management and progress update. Finally, when we are doing a project of such huge scale, we have several permits, approvals we need to get from several agencies. All these were incorporated into the mobile apps, so the whole process became a pen and paper free, and the whole process became more efficient. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. Thank you for the opportunity, and I would like to express my gratitude to AGI for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Saranya. It was a very interesting presentation, and we learned so much about how GIS can actually help the railway and metro line systems, integrate various kinds of data and get some more analysis and, take leverage out of this using geospatial data and location information. We have heard Mr. Shailesh from Maxar and Saranya from ESRI talk about the technology offerings and the kind of solutions that are available from the industry side for satellite data, as well as for GIS and data integration. Now we will hear from Mr. Rahman, who is who's a chief engineer from Northern Railway. Mr. Rahman is a 1993 batch graduate of the Indian Railway Services Engineer. He has a bachelor's in civil engineering from IIT Roorkee and a master's in geotechnical engineering from IIT Roorkee as well. He's had a distinguished career in the Indian Railways and has received several awards, including the Digital Leadership and IT Excellence Awards, while working in CRIS for Bridge Management System and Works Contract Management System respectively. So with this, I hand over the floor to you, Mr. Rahman. for your presentation and your words.
Thank you, Meghaji. Thank you, AGI, for giving me this opportunity to share the railway point of view regarding implementation of GIS. So, as everybody has so far spoken, that GIS is a very powerful technology which can help a lot in various kind of operational requirement and asset management. So we are also treading along with regard to our implementation of GIS system in Indian Railways. We have a project ongoing here, which is known as GIS and Geospatial Database for Indian Railway Assets. So I will be just briefly giving a small presentation regarding what we are exactly doing, and then I will also show some of the requirements, some of the area where we are trying to look out for some strategies. So I hope my screen is visible.
No, sir. Can you click on the turn screen share on button? Yeah, now it's coming.
Now I think it should be visible.
Yes, yes. You can go to your presentation. Gee, so we can see it. You can put it in the.
Is it visible, I think?
Yes, it's visible. Yeah.
Thanks again. So, as you know, this Indian Railways has a huge network of, you can say 68,000 kilometers of track network, out of which 34,000 are level crossings. We have 4.3 lakh hectares of land, and in the form of 52,000 land plans. Almost 71% of the track is electrified. And we have more than 7,000 stations, and there are so many static data which already and we are the 4th largest in the world after USA, China, and Russia. We are already having our DFC under construction, 3,500 kilometers, and then about 6,000 kilometers is under planning stage. So basically, the Indian railway assets are very distributed in nature. And there are tracks, bridges, tunnel, overhead electrified lines, signaling, and some of them are fixed assets like workshops, substations, level crossing, yards, etc. And there are some moving like coaches, wagons, etc. So the railway comprises 17 zones, including metro railway, 68 divisions, 10 production units, 9 functional departments, and about 13 lakh employees. So that is managed by Indian Railways, and there are 14 public sector undertakings also, SPVs, under the umbrella of Ministry of Railways. We have so many applications, IT applications, which are being used, which have been developed for asset management as well as process management. Like you can see, we have track management, bridge management, GIS, we are already under development, and there is Indian Railway Project Sanction and Management, Works Contract. So there are other departments also, like apart from civil engineering, signaling management, traction distribution, loco management, production units, and there are some process web enablement based applications also, like railroad crossings, private sidings, freight operations, control office applications, crew management system, railway line crossing, approval monitoring system. All these applications are already running. Recently, we have launched a year back Indian Railway Works Contract Management System, which is covering all the contracts of Indian Railways, works contracts. So now, what are the advantages? Everybody has spoken, I will not repeat again, because it can really help us in real-time monitoring of our assets and performance monitoring as well. We can carry out the inspection, store it with a locational advantage, and we can also ensure quality of works in project monitoring and scheduling, everything which I will be discussing later. See, this is the portal of Indian Railway Civil Engineering Department. It has a lot of applications which I showed. This is the wheel of Indian Railway asset management and process-based applications. You can see there are a huge number of applications. Almost all of them are implemented right now. A few are under development. This is the track diagram, which encompasses everything related to track and it is a layered system, which really is a huge, facility to the field engineer. Now we are doing the GIS enablement so that it gives us a fair bit of, viewing experience. These are some of the areas where we are trying to use the GIS, GIS system, like asset management, decision making and planning, disaster management, monitoring and alert system, real-time tracking, prediction forecast. All these are the domains where we'll be using as and when we are fully develop our asset capturing activity. So this is the name of the asset. We are trying to make it as a one-stop site for all the GIS requirement of Indian Railway, and which are going to achieve by obtaining and compiling entire geospatial data of a year, hosting, maintaining, effectively displaying it on the portal, integrating with the relevant data of other ministries, departments for use in case of disaster management and other monitoring activities. So far, we have been able to map around 52,000 land plans. We have been able to georeference it and place on the GIS portal. We have used trolley-mounted devices, which is RDPS, route data file preparation system, which have been used for mapping the on-track assets. 97% more than that has been done. We are using GPS handheld devices and drone imageries by drone video recording to capture the off-track asset data, of which we have fair bit of we have already done. Ortho image, we are planning to get ortho image and digital elevation and digital surface model of entire Indian railway network, and for this we have tied up with Survey of India. So they are to do that, and already we have some process-based application like leasing, licensing of land, and monetization and commercial exploitation of the land, which is also in the pipeline. So they are now to be GIS enabled. As you can see, we have georeferenced almost 90% of the land, and 9% we have already received, which are to be georeferenced. Similarly, we have more than 97% track data we have been able to capture. So almost all, whatever left is basically that data where there is some construction activity going on, or some gauge conversion, or some new line. So we have done almost 100% capturing in this regard. So off-track asset, you can see almost 68 division and production units we have already been able to receive the data, almost 14 full, and more than 50% about the 53 these divisions and production units. Of course, we are expected to complete it by end of July or mid of August, probably, hopefully. So this is the status. We are doing this drone videography with the help of Survey of India. We are also hoping to have a high-resolution drone video in sync with the map, where if you traverse along any railway line, we are able to visualize a 3D video. So for this, we are already developing an application which RailTel is developing, so that we can see this in a real-time basis and give proper right inputs in case of any planning activities or whatever we want to visualize for taking better decisions or to enabling the higher officials. Similarly, this is our Geo portal. I will just show a glimpse of it. This is the Geo portal which we have already developed. All the infrastructure is set up. All the data we have taken help from ESRI. We are using the enterprise ArcGIS software, and the database, Postgres database we are using. So this is all the land plan you can see. They have been georeferenced and boundaries are already visible. And we are also about to complete this. We will have the high resolution imageries. Once we get that, then we'll be doing the integration of other application with this. This is the off-track asset data, like you can see Alipur-Dwar junction. It is there. So we almost 115 layers and sub-layers we are able to capture through this, which almost we have done. And these are some of the applications which are going to use in project monitoring. You can see, like we can do precise measurement sitting at the positions of our offices. We can see all these measurements, and as-built drawings we can compare with. Then we can use for planning by using the area calculation, volume calculation, using the digital elevation or surface model, and precise measurement we can take through by using the use of GIS system. You can see here encroachment we are able to identify to some extent where they are clearly visible. But of course, later on we will be using the AI and data analytics to just to know any development by comparing with the different data sets of different time zones. So we can see whether any development is there. So for this, we are also going to have the image analyst for helping in this regard. So we are also using for, like, Bilaspur, Manali, Leh. We have been using this drone and lidar system, and then in the high speed rail network also, which is present between Ahmedabad and Mumbai. We have used all these technologies for survey for inaccessible and those areas where we cannot reach. So we are also integrating our projects with the our project monitoring systems. So like you can see, all the donor controlled Ministry of Donor controlled major infrastructure project we have been able to geotag. Of course, the integration is still to be done, for which we are just moving ahead. So we are taking help from the industry in this regard. So these are the projects. Barbi Sarang project you can see here, and all the features, attributes are visible here. So they will be updated real-time basis once we are able to complete the integration. So we are proposing, or we are hoping to use in disaster management by locating the nearest relief equipment and manpower. We will use it various by having the GIS layers of police station, hospital, fire station. In fact, we have already have the administrative boundaries. So in near future, we are going to acquire all these things so that we can integrate with our GIS portal. And we can do a lot many things, as the previous speakers have already told. The GIS has very immense potential. It can go a long way in enabling the field engineers as well decision makers in a big way. And it is evolving, ever evolving field. We are also closely watching it. We can have water monitoring system already. We are there, so will put it on the GIS portal soon. We'll integrate it with the bridge management system. So real-time water level can be monitored, or we can employ IoT devices like stress sensors. So we can also monitor in real-time basis once we have the this integration done. So any maintenance activity, we can have a geotag images, so quality monitoring can also be done. Real-time trend tracking, already we are doing. GPS, this automatic data evaluation support to control existing control office automation, passenger information display system. And we are also planning to dispense with the very nasty fog signals, which actually sometimes did not detonate. So it was a major headache. So now it can be dispensed because we are having all the train on the GIS system. So we are collaborating with the major government organization, G2G, in a way like NRSC. Recently, the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, has audited our portal as well as technology, and prima facie they have found it very okay. Now they are doing the detailed auditing. So hopefully, because of the corona, it has got delayed, but we'll be getting it done soon. Survey of India, we have signed a MOU for doing the drone recording and helping in the development of our GIS portal. They are providing necessary inputs. They are about to put a node here also, like the NRSC has put a node here in the KISS data center. So friends, now I will come to the what is our expectations. This is the vision board of Indian Railways, and of course, once we are able to complete the asset capturing part, like on track and land, and the off track asset, we are about to complete maybe 15-20 days or maybe in a month time. So after that, the work of real integration will go on. So as of now, some of the attributes, features which we decided with the help of Railway Board, we have already integrated, but that is not enough. Since we have the railway has a lot of expectation. In fact, Railway Board has recently had a meeting, and they in fact guided us that we should move along a system which really GIS can do by integrating with various applications, maybe electrical application or civil engineering applications, And like you can see here, I have already written it. We want to have the rail section pictorial representation on the GIS portal, so we can see what kind of rail section is available, which is of which vintage and which is required to be replaced, or maybe there is some fracture prone areas. There are some certain areas where there is a chance of a lot of jerks are coming and the track is not up to the standard. So we can show in a pictorial representation, so the management in a form of dashboard. So we are able to guide the top management what to do and how for expediting the decision making. Similarly, this is a very grave area in encroachment, because now with the advent of technology, at least we can have a encroach monitoring. Railway Board has already issued instruction to all the railways to conduct 6 monthly drone recording of all these encroachment prone areas like stations and around areas. So that is also already being done. So once it is done and we get the system in place, at least we'll be able to see where the there are chances of soft and hard kind of encroachment occurring or developing in a way. And then similarly, there are we have around 151,000 bridges, and many of these are of having overall rating number 1 and 2, which are very dilapidated kind of bridges, which are distressed kind of bridges. So those distressed bridges, we are not having proper control right now because we cannot see it. A lot of scavenging is required to see all those data. So once we have on a data on a GIS portal, we can see, we can yellow or red mark these things, so that the executive is knowing what are the bridges in his area which are having ORN 1 and 2. And similarly, rail fracture is very cause of grave concern for railways. So we can use data analytics and the data, USFD data and anything, and put the locational advantage into it, and we can know where the rail fracture is occurring actually, and where the incidence of rail fracture in future as well, because of some formation problem, or because of any problem which might be there inherent in the system which we are not able to locate. So we can focus there. Then similarly, we can monitor inspection due overdue in a pictorial form, and that will help the higher up to see whether the inspection as per the schedule are happening, or there is lack, or anybody who opens his dashboard, he can see I'm lacking on this count or that. So there are track recording cards going for recording of the track parameters. Oscillograph monitoring system also is there, so we can track the peaks and where are area where we can where we can input our maintenance effort, so that those peaks are not repeated. Similarly, we have a lot of track machine of different kinds, and they are working, they are monitoring, and their deployment, etc., and the amount of work they do and the kind of work they do, that we can monitor on a real-time basis on a GIS portal. So that we are going to do. Flood monitoring also a key area where we can have a lot of, especially in the monsoon times. And similarly, we can have the live monitoring of track temperature. We already have some of the identified location. We have temperature where there is a chance of high temperature and buckling of the track, which is a very major nuisance in the heat, summer season. So these are some of the areas. Of course, there are so many areas, but as of now, we have identified these particular areas where we need to go very fast, so that we are able to meet with the aspiration of the railway people and top management. And with this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for giving us a very good overview. It's very interesting to see the kind of work that is going on using geospatial technologies, and especially the vision board. And I hope that our industry colleagues are listening, and they've taken a note of all the forthcoming work and expectations that the Indian Railways would have from them, and they should be able to gear up to serve you better. Thank you for your presentation, sir. So please stay with us for the panel discussion. And before that, I would like to invite now from the National Indian Railways, we would look at the perspective of state metro services. So Dr. Kalsi, Dr. Architect Ms. Namrata Kalsi, she is a PhD in regional master planning and a bachelor's in architecture. She has currently she is a joint general manager architecture and property development at the Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. She's had a distinguished career spanning over 2 decades. Dr. Kalsi, may I request you to please switch on your camera so that we can see you. Very, very good afternoon and welcome, ma'am. And with this, I hand over the floor to you.
Okay, how can I share my presentation?
Yeah, we will be doing that. You can see the presentation, ma'am?
Yeah, I can see. I had made some changes, but it's okay.
Okay.
It's
So
all
would you
right.
like to go ahead? Okay.
Yeah, I'll cover them up over here.
Okay, ma'am.
So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Namrita Kalsi. Presently, I am not handling property development. I'm actually handling the metro lines project. But anyhow, I just wanted to share some experience of geospatial technologies in metro. Although DMRC is already managing its operation and maintenance through very sophisticated systems, and in addition to that, its drawing and construction is now being managed through Revit and BIM modeling. However, the asset management by DMRC has been initiated through the drone survey, for which it had recently floated a tender. The scope of work of this tender was to conduct aerial survey and providing various civil outputs like orthomosaic, point cloud, 3D model, and all generated in ECW files. Let me go into more detail of these key terms. Orthomosaic is a process in which an image is collected via drone in order to capture high-resolution photos of DMRC land. This imagery has been ortho-rectified to create a uniform scale, because when we get the images from drone, they may be in different sizes and of different location. So they do need a little bit of course correction. The derived product is an exact representation of the Earth's surface that can be used to measure true distances. Point clouds are databases or datasets that represent objects or areas. These points represent the x, y, and the z geometric coordinates of a single point on an underlying sampled surface. All this will provide DMRC with a 3D object creation, which will give areas orthophotography map and which will be stored as an online map on the cloud platform for interactive viewing. This will also provide better control over work progress and ability to provide DMRC with most recent visual information to detect illegal construction or occupation. All this we will get in ECW output, which is basically an enhanced compressed wavelet efficiency, which compresses very large images into fine alternating contrast while retaining their visual quality. So this system is important for aerial photography and satellite imagery. The methodology which was described in the tender was digitization of land record, available with DMRC for comparison with aerial survey, on-site measurement of land plots wherever necessary, demarcation of current DMRC boundaries on drawing, and calculation of plot areas, and thereafter reporting encroachment in drawing and in tabulated form. So currently the work has been allotted to Airpix, who have high-end drone surveys for land surveying and GIS mapping solution using its UAV surveys. So basically UAV is unmanned aerial vehicles, which will provide accurate topographic maps on time using photogrammetric software, Google Earth, and GIS layers to generate orthophoto, base map, and volumetric analysis. High resolution actionable photogrammetric information will also be provided. Okay, I will just go to the next slide first. So these are some very simple steps to understand what all is going on. But strategy is basically to develop a systematic plan as follows. First and foremost, we will analyze the area in terms of dimension where we have to carry out the survey. Then the drone flies over that area which we have sort of identified, and data is captured, and this captured data is processed and the result will be delivered to DMRC. Okay, I'm going to the previous slide. That was just an overview of the process that has been defined in the tender. However, the workflow is a little bit more detailed. Basically, DMRC will be providing whatever drawings are available to the vendor, and if the drawing is not there of that particular area, then the layout will be made on the Google Earth. Once that layout is defined and the scope of area in that pocket is defined, okay, let me go to another slide first. Actually, I have rearranged this. This tender is to conduct aerial videography of Line 1 corridor of metro network showing various items in the alignment. So these are basically, it's a very long alignment. On this alignment, we have different stations. So the vendor is to capture the data of these different stations. So depending on the size of the station, the mission of each station will be defined. If that area is very large, maybe they will have 1, 2 or 3 missions on that station. If the area is small, then one single mission will be sufficient. Once the mission is defined, then GCP's ground control points will be established, which has to be done, say, approximately at a distance of 500 meters, which is, I think, maximum distance, which will be marked with DGPS, that is Differential Global Positioning System, and it will be also marked on the ground with any system like by putting a cross of something. When the drone is flown over it as per planned path and as per the aerial height fixed in the strategy, then it will pick out those points in the pictures, which will help us define the boundary. The drone basically has a instrument over it which uses radio or Wi-Fi to communicate with the network. And this particular vendor is providing an application or an app, if we call it in short, where all this data will be, compiled and processed. So then the pictures are taken. Pictures are then arranged and processed on the app. XYZ information, whatever is missing, is possible to feed manually in their software. On the basis of 2D information, the 2D model can be generated, and if we put the third dimension, then we can develop surface model. And if each pixel is given XYZ information, then we can develop 3D models. Here, the georeferencing is done with the help of Latlon, and GPS information is also given. Once all this is generated, then the information given by the client will be overlaid on the drawings, and discrepancy, if any, will be located. Thereafter, there will be further analysis of area and other things, and these calculations, after being undertaken, will be given to DMRC as report and deliverables. So this is the survey which is being carried on. So the challenges, they were very small and simple challenges which took place while all these drone surveys was going on. That was, one was the how to access the site, finding vacant places for takeoff or landing, not getting sufficient visual line of sight. Hence the mission pieces were kept a little small, these are all typical urban area challenges. And carrying out a survey during winters, because of the fog, sometimes there is a haze-like quality and the vision is not very clear, image is not very clear. The output has to be given by the vendor in the form of 3D drawing format, including height of viaduct, building boundary walls, and other structures within the survey area. So this is a initial picture of the CAD picture of the work that has been carried out by the vendor. This work is still ongoing. So this is an image of the work done by him, where the raster and the vector output is given, And this is a view of the Kashmiri Gate drone survey in which there is a red line and a green line. Red line is shown the land which is for which the papers, ownership papers have been located, and the green is the line which is in the possession of DMRC. So basically this is the area which needs to be resolved. So in addition to that, the vendor is to conduct aerial videography of line 1 corridor of network showing various items in the alignment. To submit the brief comparison report versus the previous versus the spelling is wrong versus the previous report at the interval of 6 months, because we want to see that during this time no encroachment has taken place. Second time videography will be conducted after every 6 months up to 6 years. That means that after initial first videography, 5 more drone surveys will be taking place. So the conclusion is that in case we go for drone survey, the time wait is reduced in comparison to the traditional ground survey. The reliability of such surveys is sometimes more better than the outdated previous maps, of which the authenticity cannot be sure, and it can help create and monitor land record digitization. And drone data management on cloud platform will help DMRC for easy drone data management, data visualization, collaboration, and analytic report. So thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for giving us an overview of the drone survey that has taken place, and what are the kind of challenges that you have faced, and what kind of work that what output are you expecting out of this whole exercise. So now we will be starting with the panel discussion, and may I request all the speakers to please turn on your camera so that we can see you. And for this panel, we have, apart from Mr. Meherman and Dr. Kalsi, we have two panelists who are joining us. Mr. Abhineet Jain, who leads the Global Industry Business Development for Commercial Verticals at Maxar, and he's based in Singapore. Abhineet has been active in the remote sensing and photogrammetry industry for the last 28 years and has served various roles in technical, sales, and business development. He has a master's in botany and postgraduate research in the field of climate change and forest productivity from Indian Institute of Remote Sensing. Forestry, environment, and disaster management are among his favorite areas where he has been promoting the use of remote sensing. We also have Mr. Krishna Rao TVB, who is the head of pre-sales, customer engagement, and GIS solution architect at Esri India. He holds a Master's of Science in Ecology from Pondicherry Central University. He holds an expansive experience of over 2 decades of working in the geomatics field at organizations like NRSC, Rolta, Atib Intergraph, and now at ESRI. So welcome everyone. I think we're still waiting for Mr. Rao to join us. Okay, so I'm being told that he is just joining us in a couple of seconds. Till then, I would like to share my first question with the panelists, and yeah, Mr. Rao is here.
So you see,
Mr. Rao, may I request you to turn on your video?
Yeah.
Great. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've heard perspective from Maxar, we've heard perspective from ESRI, from the Indian Railways, and of course from the DMRC. My first question would be a very simple one. Do you, all the panelists, think that the geospatial technologies is being optimally used for Indian Railways or for the metros in India? And if not, then what is the hindrance? Like, what is holding its higher adoption level? And what, in your opinion, would be something that the stakeholders or the ecosystem can do to increase this adoption or make it more valuable for the users? So let's start with you, Abhineet.
Okay. All right. First of all, hello everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. I was listening very intently, keenly to all the presentations, and my compliments to both Mr. Rahman and Dr. Khalsi for taking such a undertaking. It's very heartening to see the actual application of geospatial data in real world. So that's very heartening, very encouraging to see. My general experience in the Indian context is slightly different from what I heard from you both today. There's a general impression of non-availability or non-access to the data. So from where I see the Indian geospatial industry, there are two important pillars to having this innovation and developing new use cases. One being obviously the policy framework, and the other is obviously the institutional capabilities. So I'm very pleased to see that Indian Railways institutional capability is at such a high level, so is the MRC's capability itself. However, my question would be around, do we have right geospatial policies in India? Because if the data is not accessible to the user community, the innovation and driving the advantages that geospatial and location intelligence provides, I don't think we are reaping the full benefit of the technology and the advancements that we have made in the last 10-15 years. So my viewpoint is, I think India is still, although I see there's a leap and bound improvement in what I had seen 15-20 years back to what I'm seeing today, but I still feel that there is a lot that can be done in improving the policy framework so that the community has more access, more open access to the geospatial information.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Mr. Rao, what would you like to respond to this? In your experience, you think that the Indian Railways or the metro systems in our country, is geospatial technology being optimally used? And what are the gap areas, if there are any, and what can we do? What can, as an ecosystem, what can we do to upgrade it?
Yeah, thanks, Megha. I personally feel Indian Railways has opened up and they are started taking steps towards the geospatial enablement for the Indian Railways. And why we are doing it, why am I telling is, we have, for the last 2 years, we have a lot of interaction, not only at the user level, but also at the management, at the senior railway board management level, where the traction has happened, but geo-enabling the Indian railway systems. That's the most positive side of that. And the other thing is, the Indian Railway has got an enormous amount of data sets with them. They're generating a lot of data sets. So probably they need to work towards putting it as a one single database for entire Indian Railways. Maybe they're all now currently under silos. We have to bring in that particular relationship between these silos, stitch them together so that we get, a one map for Indian Railways, which has all this information with them. And because Indian Railways is such a big organization, so there are different groups and they maintain their own data sets. So what I believe is the whole effort should be to bring them as a one single system and one map for Indian Railways, which can do. And I was, when I was interacting with them, I was, at least as a common person, we were not aware, but we were very well aware, surprised that they have got some of the real-time information which is being kept with them. And they are willing to bring it into a geospatial ecosystem. I totally agree with Abhineet about saying that we need to open up those systems. Yes, I believe the railway is really opening up. There are interaction with that of sharing there. Some of the things, systems which can be shared with the public domain, they have started doing it. They have taken steps towards that. And I believe if they are able to maintain the same traction over the next few years, probably we can see one of the very robust geospatial system being handled. There will be challenges with the kind of size of the organization and the distribution of the railways are. So there could be traction. Probably we have to work towards stitching it and minimizing the risks in that. I think that is what would have happened. That's what I feel. So I feel very positive and excited about that. Only I see the steps we have to climb in there.
Absolutely. I think, as we both have said, that we've taken a long journey, and we've reached a very good point. But now, how to leapfrog into the next generation of data use, and taking advantage of the data, that is something that the industry and the our stakeholders in the railway have to work together. Your
Right.
thoughts, Dr. Kalsi, on this? You're coming from the DMRC. What is, in your opinion, the use of geospatial technologies? Is it good enough, or would you have a feeling that no, we can do more? And if so, then how can the industry support you?
Actually, I had started on a project on GIS about 10 to 12 years back, when the master planning is existing land use planning and proposed master planning of a city was done on GIS. So that convinced I was about the technology, that the day of making drafting the master plans on hand or through pencil and you know drawing board is over, because that is what we were doing in our department. So that is why we went for satellite imagery through NARSA Hyderabad and drafting the master plan based on that. So that convinced I was about the technology. Thereafter, I had come to Delhi, so I did have little bit experience in geotechnical while we were collecting data for the department in Delhi. So a lot of work was done over there. So what happened to the data? I'm not very sure whether that was utilized or they had kept the charges for that, because they also had to, generate their running expenses. But I feel that that was a very good initiative. Well, as far as DMRC is concerned, like we have gone into the Revit and BIM side, in which we are making all the drawings and the services on Revit and BIM. All the 3D models are being generated, and whatever tendering and the drawings which are being issued at the side is through the model itself. So this little initiative that had taken place of drone surveys for the asset management, because line 1 is the oldest line of DMRC, and in the subsequent lines, maybe the record and the ownership and the other things are well managed. So it is the previous line which needed a little bit of more attention, where we have gone for drones. So I feel that's a very good initiative, because we are redesigning some of the portions like parking and other things. So every time we do the redesigning in the retrofitting, we go for a small survey. So once we get through geospatial, we'll be able to generate the contours, we'll be able to get the terrain, and it'll be very easy for us to do designing and not go for these micro surveys which then get lost over a period of time. So how the industry can support? Well, the industry is always very supportive, and we would like that they keep us apprised and aware of anything new which is coming, which will help us in utilizing it in our whenever we encounter a problem or a situation where such technological help is required.
Absolutely, that's something that is always true.
Exactly.
The industry has to handhold and keep the users abreast of what's happening and what's the new thing that are coming up. So, Mr. Rahman, of course, you have spoken so much about the kind of work that you're doing using geospatial, and it's really, really heartening to see, all the extent of work that is going on. But still, in your view, do you think that you're happy, you're satisfied with the geospatial technology implementation, or you still have some wishes or desires that we still have miles to go and we still want to achieve a certain level of proficiency? What is your opinion and what's your experience been like?
See, thank you, Meghaji, for this thing. This very good question you have asked, because all the panelists have already elaborated that this technology is really upcoming, and we have a lot of industry support in this. And there is a huge scope in this. We have been able to harness only a little fraction of it. So a lot many things are yet to be done. Of course, we are in a very, you can say, very nascent stage. We are about to capture our Indian Railway being a huge organization, it is going for the last 3-4 years to capture all the data, all the on-track asset and off-track asset and this land plans, everything. So now the real time has come when we can really harness the full potential of GIS, and we are in touch with the industry people, including ESRI and other participants. So we are hopeful that we will be able to integrate the various applications which are in fact in use, but once they get the locational advantage, and that factoring into it will become a really revolutionary kind of thing, because that will increase the confidence of the person who is taking the decision. So basically, there are so many things now. You know, this photogrammetry, 3D photogrammetry is really helpful, but the conventional has been become obsolete. Now you can have digital terrain model, elevation model, surface model, and cloud, point cloud, everything, and sitting at your home you can do it. So obviously, railway in project execution, we are already using it in a big way, but monitoring of the assets and their failure monitoring or their upkeep and their the resource monitoring, the planning part, and the planning and this traffic modeling and other things, you know, there we need to now go in a big way, so that we are able to, I mean, empower the railway officials from the lowest rung to the top brass. So we are hopeful, very much hopeful. I am very confident, because the railway board is very positive in the sense they are actually eagerly monitoring it and they are pushing it right like anything. So with the helm of affairs in a good hands, and the intention is being good, and industry also supporting, and there are a lot many competitors also. So that way, a good environment is there, good ecosystem is in place, and we can use it to our advantage. And I think we can, I mean, optimize our costs also, as well as our system can be made more efficient as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And yes, it's very heartening to know that actually the leadership is convinced, and they are taking the right decisions and right action to, you know, better adopt this technology, and they're monitoring it very closely. So my next question would be for Abhineet. We've heard a very good presentation by Shailesh, who talked about the kind of applications and solutions that Maxar is providing through satellite imagery and cloud-based services for, you know, for asset management in the railways. Would you like to throw some light on what is the kind of vision or future that we can see, you know, for satellite data and solutions that are specifically relevant for the industry sector, for this railway infrastructure sector, and how can the users use it to enhance their work in the future?
So, Megha, I don't know how much time do we have. I can speak 2 hours.
Right. So
I missed Shailesh's presentation because of
his voice is not coming, I think.
Is it better now?
Is he audible, Mr. Abhijit?
I can hear you very well, Mr.
Yeah,
Rahman.
we can hear him. I can hear you, Abhineet.
Okay.
I'm not able to hear him.
Is it better now? I'm kind of speaking closer to the microphone now. Is it okay, Mr. Rahman?
I can hear everybody else, but not the current speaker.
Sir, you are able to hear me, sir?
So can you hear?
Yes, now I can hear. Now I can.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now, look, I was saying I missed Shailesh's presentation, so I'm not sure what he spoke of. From
I think Mr. Rao is spoken. So Abhineet is still not audible to me.
Oh, is it?
Or is it?
I'm not sure.
Everybody else is audible, but not the current one. So I think all other people are able to hear. Why not me?
Yeah,
there is some technical glitch. There is some technical glitch happening.
No, this.
So the glitch is not from our side. I think there is some internet connectivity.
Mr. Rahman, this may be.
Echo is coming right now. There is some echo.
No, I face the same bias from this platform. It was not allowing me to join earlier, so it may be the same case, Mr. Rahman.
Please go ahead. Maybe some issue there.
My apologies for that. So just taking the previous discussion.
Please mute Mr. Kalsi.
Yeah, Abhineet, please go ahead.
Sorry. I think there's a lot of potential that I see going forward with the kind of advancements happening in the industry as a whole. So far, we have exploited geospatial technologies in a very closed framework or a closed paradigm.
His video is also not visible.
Oh, I think then it's a problem because I can see everybody and I can hear everybody well.
Yeah, we can hear you and see you too, Abhineet. Rahman sir, may I request you to rejoin? Because
Rejoin.
yes, if you can.
I think you use Zoom application, which is better.
Absolutely, sir. This is a learning for us.
This one is very troublesome because we had to leave it. I had to leave it 2-3 times. Then I tried. Then I contacted you later.
Okay.
So I'm just quitting here.
Ji.
Then I will rejoin. Okay.
Ji. Thank you, sir. I'm so sorry about this, sir.
So, yeah. Shall we give a minute to Mr. Rahman to come back?
Yes, I think so.
Is that fine? Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yes, he's back.
Yes.
Sir.
Good.
Now
can you hear me?
Yes, now it is audible.
Good. Great. I can't see you anymore, but that's all right. I can hear you. What I was.
My video is not off. So I will...
Now I can see you as well. Okay. So, I feel that we have not harnessed the entire potential of geospatial and location intelligence just yet. So when we look at a picture taken from drone or satellite or whatever other sources, we are limited to a very mapping mindset or a very close framework. So we think from a contour standpoint or creating a map standpoint. We have not gone into utilizing the data in the real world application. So this is where I feel that we can go beyond this pixel or the mapping mindset into actually utilizing the data in real world applications. A couple of examples comes to mind where in Philippines and Vietnam, we are using multispectral and obviously the high resolution satellite imagery together to create a map of informal settlements, right? So to what DMRC or Indian Railways may be doing from an encroachment standpoint, I think we have not gone there in utilizing both the AI ML techniques and the data power of the data together to understand that side of the dynamics. So we use multispectral data to do the rooftop classification to understand what kind of roofs we are looking at, and then create these informal squatter or settlement maps. The other example that comes to mind when I heard the intention of utilizing or monetizing the land assets of Indian Railways, where imagine if you were to establish solar panel systems on the railway land, right? So you can utilize this data in developing a solar potential mapping kind of a map. We have not effectively utilized just yet the vulnerability analysis or the risk hazard reduction efforts. We are battling towards the emergency response, but we are not working enough for disaster preparedness from that standpoint. So there's a lot that can be do. We have yet to talk about this carbon, climate change, and sustainability issues, where railway is definitely the biggest stakeholder from an industry standpoint. So I think there is a huge potential where the whole technology can be brought beyond where we are today, and this is where the industries like ours can come and bring our experience of what we are doing around the world. I can give you some examples here in Singapore, where Singapore is a small country. It's hardly 700 square kilometer, but it has created a very high resolution, three-dimensional map of the entire country and city. But not only created the data, they have opened this to the industry, the academia, the researchers, the government, and they facilitate this interaction and interface between the industry and the users. And this is kind of driving a lot of new innovation in this ecosystem. And I think this is where the industry and organizations like Indian Railways can go together. From what Maxar is thinking and doing from their own investment in the technology, as you know, Maxar is a technology company. One part of our investment is going into launching new technologies in the space. So you may have heard from Shailesh, we are going to launch a new satellite later this year, which will be a set of 6 satellites in the constellation. It will capture data at 30 centimeter resolution, and where the paradigm shift comes and the transformation can be expected is this constellation will capture data almost 15 times in a day. Now, which means today when we claim that we can capture data once a day, this constellation will allow you to collect data from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening, every hour. So that opens up a huge potential for you to use this kind of data at high frequency, high resolution for very effective management and monitoring of what's going on your side. Where I see Maxar is especially invested into is there is a distance between data capture and information and utilization of the information. There's a huge gap between that. So once you get the data and before you can get the information and use it, there is a almost like 60-80% of your time, effort, and cost spent into between the data and the information. This is where all these technologies of AI, ML, and cloud processing, high processing computing powers come into picture. So our vision is to create the whole Earth in 3 dimension in 30 centimeter resolution. Today we have the whole Earth created at 50 centimeter resolution in 2 dimension and 3 dimension. We're going to move this a notch higher with 30 centimeter of the same data set around the world. What will change the Legion when it comes up? It will bring us into the 4th dimension of when we can not only see the world in 3D, but we can also see what's changing at a very frequent manner. So these are some of our initiatives which will hopefully impact and bring efficiencies both in terms of cost, efficacies, and time to our users around the world. So this is in a short nutshell where Maxar thinks that they can bring value to the industry.
Wonderful, wonderful. And absolutely, I mean, hearing you, the kind of data that is going to come up, the entire world in 3D, in 30 centimeter, readily available for users to capture and, play around with, that's really incredible. And yeah, so as you rightly said, that there are a lot of applications in real world applications that actually the data can be put to use, and that can be relevant for the railways as well as the city level metro services. So I'm just wondering, Mr. Rao, looking at the kind of data that is actually being generated by different organizations. Maxar is, of course, one of the leading companies providing satellite data. How is ESRI working to build? What is the role of web GIS and cloud solutions in giving a comprehensive asset management, given the kind of data that is going to be available or it's already available? And how can you? What are your thoughts around supportive collaborative workflow among the stakeholders to enable better adoption of technology?
Yeah. So thanks, Mega. As rightly said, there is a lot of data being generated. Yes, and now if with the Maxar's intention to bring in such a huge volume of data in coming years, and railway itself has started a very good initiative. I believe definitely Ramanji would have told in his thing where they are doing a country level mapping of their tracks at 5 centimeter and 2 centimeter. See the kind of resolution they're talking about. And that has really spinned off us and given opportunities to technology companies like ESRI, who are actually have developed a very innovative tools on AI/ML, which actually help them to faster extraction of the data, what is relevant for them. So what is the most important traction for them? That's one is the railway tracks. So the ISRI's AI/ML tools are actually going to help them to automatically extract the railway tracks. Instead of designing, they have the Indian Railways has about like 6 lakh kilometers plus 6 lakh plus kilometers of railway tracks. Think of such a voluminous task to do that, and with new lines getting added up, and that's where the ISRI's technology is going to help them with the automation of those segments we are doing. So I would request everybody on these sessions to please join us on our user conference, where we'll be showing you within Indian data about how we are extracting these railway tracks out of that. And the other one, with such a land bank, such a huge land bank this has, there are also challenges and with the management of such land banks. So we are also looking in for a very established web TS tools to actually help them doing the land bank management, where they can bring all their land information into it, and it becomes a one single slide for the land information. And that's how we are collaborating. The other very important part is, the smartness of the railways. We are bringing smart IoT integrations, where railways has different kinds of sensors in there, everything from coach to engine to tracks to other areas, which is also generating another enormous data sets. So we would, ESR is working towards them in integrating this smart information into them and actually enable them in a quick decision making. That's the whole purpose is. With such of, the more information, sometimes if information is not channeled, it becomes a garbage. So that's where, ISRI is working with them in order to bring out a meaningful information. We should help them in decision making. That's the whole purpose where we are working with that. So one thing very important to all these parties, generating information is one. Again, railway should also gear up of thinking of building such kind of a voluminous infrastructure. And that is where, to maintain such data sets coming every second and with some trillions of records coming on every day, that's where the cloud technology will actually help them. Probably data centers may not be able to handle everything at certain point. So they have to start building those cloud infra, managing the information and meaning extracting the useful information. And that's how the ESRI technologies on the web actually help them bring out those dynamic dashboards to see the real-time information, providing them alerts, and then managing all the information which is very relevant for them. That's where I see ESRI is collaborating with them to bring these innovative outputs.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So just a short comment, Megha.
Yes.
Just taking Indian Railways as an example, right? They are not a mapping agency. Their intention is to manage the railway information as effectively as possible. So technology providers are there to take away that 60 to 80% part that I mentioned, where maximum energy, time, and cost goes, and leave the user to do their best in utilizing the data rather than spending their energies and time into actually capturing the data, consuming the data, integrating and collating the data. They need to straight away go into taking the information that is relevant for their use case and applying it into the decision process system. So this is where all these technologies would come very handy in how you put them together, what technology you use to straight away get into the analysis side of the business.
Absolutely. Mr. Rahman, would you like to respond to this? You must be actually doing what Abhineet said, that from the data capture to the information generation, the 68 to 80% part of the work, is it that much? And what is your experience? Would you like the industry to take it up for you so that you are left with the application and the real world problem solving bit? What would be your response? So you muted?
Yes. So what Mr. Abhineet has just expressed is, welcome. He has the point of view which is very good. I really support him for this idea. But actually, we have a system of our own, and we have divisions and railways. And I was in CRIS, and CRIS itself cannot do all the mapping and everything. So this task was entrusted to zonal railways and their divisions, and they were having some of their own agencies, local or anything. So they were mapping all the asset, like the off-track asset, using the handheld devices and the drone imageries that some of the railways have adopted, because we have given them option to map it, and the data they are providing to centrally to CRIS, so that we are able to put it on the database, and we do all kind of analysis and integrations wherever it is required to be done. So we are adopting the same approach. Of course, the railway board is desiring that we should have a high resolution data, and for that we should be able to see even the panroll clips on the railway, even the bridge tablets on the railway, even the small streams which are going, we should be able to see. So for that we have tied up with we have just undergone signed up a MOU with Survey of India, and they have huge number of drones they are doing for the so many Atmanirbhar in Bharat and all that. So they will be doing us for us, and we will have a base layer, a very high resolution base map after we map all things, and then we will be aligning all the assets according to the high resolution map, so that they are in their proper place. Like we got all the assets mapping, the on-track assets, they were taken on a device which is mounted on a trolley. So whatever coordinates we are getting, it is on the trolley coordinates. So the actual asset is somewhere else. So now once the Survey of India will be doing this correction also after we get those imageries. So they will be bringing back to their actual location by locating it on the imagery, high resolution imagery. So that way we will be able to see our rails also, and then we can factor into the data which we have, huge data. In fact, we have USFD data and TRC data, track recording car data, machine data we are having, USFD testing data we are having. So that will be factoring into and employ the AI technology and data analytics, so that we can predict where the failure is going to happen, what the concentration, where the track is deteriorating very fast. In fact, we have a track degradation model also in the track management system. So that track degradation model predicts where we should put the input also. But once you put the location advantage, then that will become very handy for the management to take a decision. So we are in the right direction and we're in the right hand. Of course, in the integration, we'll be needing the industry, as I told in my presentation as well, because that area we are not much aware of. That area, in fact, we have tried to hop up with so many people, and then we are one by one we will be integrating, because our signaling management system is coming up, traction distribution management system is coming up. There are so many other asset management like loco management, it is also there. So we can integrate all these on the GIS portal, and then everything will be. But of course, this will take some time to do, because being such a mammoth task to do, It is not going to go overnight.
Absolutely.
So we have a stupendous task before us, and we are confident we will be able to do it with the advent and with the help of the industry. And I really welcome everybody who can help me, so that in an economic way and better way, because the railway has become very spendthrift. So we have to be very economic and optimized.
Yes.
That way, we'll be welcoming all the people, partners who can help us in reaping the rewards of GIS.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Just a quick rebuttal in response. It's more like a clarification to what I was saying earlier. My intention is on the recency or the currency of the data. You see, whatever methodology being used, be it drone or be it satellite, whether it's done by machine or whether it's done by humans, regardless, if the information flow is slow, you see the speed at which change happens. If you are taking 2 years to create your map, by the time you start using them, they may be old and stale. That information may not be as relevant as it would have been 6 months before. So my intention coming from using, that bridging the gap between data capture and extracting the information, putting it to application, was from that currency standpoint, is that if the technology can reduce that gap, then the utilization of the information, especially in the time critical scenarios where you need that information as timely and as recent as possible, would be far more effective than having that information 6 months later. So this is where I was coming from. And also I wanted to comment that mapping should not be taken as a one-time effort. Of course, you need to create your base map, you need to create all these assets one time, but it should not be treated as a one-time effort. Because from where I see the industry is going is in a living and breathing inventory of the assets. And this is where I'm not specifically mentioning about satellite, because satellite is just one way of collecting the location intelligence. You have the probes on the ground, your GPS on your mobile is feeding this location information in almost near real time. How do you integrate all this information together and make your asset inventory a living and breathing system which has all this information in almost near real time, if not real time? So that was my intention, where technology can come forth and help.
Thank you for your comment. I know it's a very vital thing to take care of while building our infrastructure and asset mapping. So, in fact, most of the assets, basically in the railway system, there is not much change. Only when we put something additional, some facilities or some additional inputs. So we have empowered our field people. They can, through the GPS device, they can collect the data and then they can put on the GIS portal themselves. Of course, the core of the work we have done centrally, but later on they will be augmenting it by using their own mobile application and app builder application, or maybe these mobile collectors like some of the organizations or some of the industry people are having. Even the NRC is providing one data collector app, which is very useful. We can also think of that. So once we are able to complete it, then will be it has to be live, because railway is not a static organization; it's a live organization. Yes. So we have to update it regularly on a real time basis. Otherwise, it will go. Become obsolete and irrelevant. So that way, without that, we cannot go ahead. That is the foremost requirement for us to take care of. What we want to know is that real time, suppose we have some rail section there, and we want to know what kind of rail section is where, which one is due for renewal, or which one we want to plan to renew. So that we have to provide some kind of color coding for such kind of rail by integrating our track management system, so that we are able to see on a GIS platform what are those locations where you need to change that asset, or whether it has lived its life, whether it's going to live its life in near future. So that integration we are planning to do, and that will be really handy once we are able to do that. There are so many other uses also. Disaster management is one thing. Factoring other departments, ministries' data on a real-time basis, we have agreement with them. So B2B, I mean government to government, we don't have any problem in getting data from there. Already there is a government regulation come up wherein we don't need to go to enter into any MU kind of thing to get the data. It is freely available now. So that way the government has also enabled us for data sharing, and that way our system will always be live, because without that it cannot survive, and we cannot survive as an organization.
Yes.
So
that's great to hear.
Yes. So you are right, and you have rightly pointed out, and we must have to take care of that also. Yes.
Dr. Kalsi, I had a question for you. Yeah. So meanwhile, till ma'am is on the phone and she's ending the conversation, I would like to ask one last question to Mr. Rahman. How do you think that geospatial technologies has helped you to become more cost efficient? And has it been able to make your organization cost efficient? Have you been able to accrue these kind of benefits out of it? And moving forward, what are the kind of geospatial data or data sets that you require? What kind of sensors are you looking for? One is, of course, you spoke about the integration part, which is very, very critical, which is what you're looking at. But taking a step backwards, what are the kind of geospatial data that you require? And has geospatial technologies been able to bring you some cost efficiencies?
See, it has actually cost is not much in the geospatial technology, because Indian Railway is a very huge organization, and of course it is the nerve center of the Indian Railway. So spending some few crores is not a matter of concern right now. But of course the industry is growing up, so we will reap the advantage as well, because we have so many, like we are going to cloud also. We have already planned that after we fully form it, then we will do something. Maybe our estimates are already in place. So we will be going to cloud as a private cloud. So that way we will be enabling so that it is scalable, and it doesn't, I mean, we are not starved of anything, space or storage constraint or compute constraint, whatever it is. So that is there. And as regard to the price part, I say, because many of things, because we are able to get from government to government at a very reasonable cost, and then we already have ESRI on our this thing, and then NRC is also helping us, and wherever there is some integration requirement, we are exploring so many possibilities. So the cost optimization will be there, and we will be able to optimize it, no issues. But rather our main concern is that we will be able to provide the service to the decision support system, which really is going to optimize the railway infrastructure use. Absolutely. And thereby increasing the revenue, thereby decreasing the failure, the asset failure, which is up, because money saving you penny wise, pound foolish, that is not going to work. We have to be pragmatic in that regard. Absolutely. Because you save few rupees and then you spend crores. That is not the idea. Absolutely. Our basic idea is that we should be able to, strike a balance and see that what is best to our organizational, as a benefit. Absolutely. At that level, and the user is happy. Of course, we whatever application we have launched, we have dashboard we have provided, and we are getting 5-star rating there. So users are very happy because they are getting everything real time, and their expectations have really gone skyrocketing. So we are on the edge now. We have to pull up everything so that we are able to provide all kind of support, and we make it updated and user friendly. Yes, absolutely. So good to hear that. Dr. Kalsi, any thoughts on, you've heard already what
Abhineet and Mr. Rao have shared regarding the upcoming technologies, what we can expect in future in terms of satellite-based technologies and solutions, or data integration, and based on AI and big data analysis. From your standpoint, what do you see the adoption for DMRC in future? What kind of technology, what kind of data are you looking forward to? What kind of support would you need from the industry? Ma'am, you're muted. Ma'am, you're muted.
Okay, Megha, let me share some thoughts with you.
Yes.
So you see that my GIS experience during my career goes back 10, 12 years back when we did the master planning on existing land use mapping, and then later doing the planning also on the same format. Thereafter, I was associated with GSDL in Delhi, where we were trying to capture data at different scales. It was a 3-time exercise. The data of the city was captured on 3 different scales. I really think that whether all the data that was collected was put to any use, was it of use to the city? So that we have to see that how that data has to be retrieved. ये नहीं है कि अगली बारी you need an information on that particular area and you once again go for another fresh survey because the last survey was not saved.
Absolutely.
So that is the thing. Thereafter, there's another thing that over a period of time, like I remember my experience, and when we started the existing land use mapping of the master planning, I had to literally collect the cadastral maps, which were like from the times of the Britishers, and they were like on a latha, and these people from the village, your patwaris, they brought them there. So it was very difficult to take that data from them, because they felt कि ये हमारी this is our information. They didn't feel that it was government's information. They were not very ready to share. So this is a mindset actually which we have to fight, that we have these micro verticals in which one vertical does not want to share data with the second vertical.
Absolutely.
So this is something which we have to fight. While DMRC, we have taken the route of, for our newer corridor, as I shared earlier, we have taken the route of Revit and BIM, in which all our assets are already inbuilt, and whether over a period of time DMRC for its operation and maintenance also wants to extend the same system, that time will tell. Up till now we are only up till construction stage. But definitely I agree that GIS is helpful, especially when places like Delhi have become very confusing, where the network below the ground has also become very busy.
Yeah.
There are so many alignments. One tunnel is going under that, one is going above that tunnel. Then we also have tunnels of NCRTC which are also going there. So ultimately there will be a lot of confusion. So it is the integrated maps which are more important. So I did work for some time in NDMC, where we had the smart city sort of a thing, in which there was also a lot of data which was being collected. So which is this thing of a different thing of the same area. So how we integrate that information is the key.
Yes.
कि हमारे रिकॉर्ड में, हमारी फाइल्स में पुराने नक्शे पड़े हैं, तो टुडे वी कांट आउटडेट देम बिकॉज दे हैव statutory sanctity.
Yes.
And they have been worked on by people in the past.
Yes.
So all these things, the institutional memory and the institutional things, work being done by different departments, I feel that GIS is one tool where all this can be brought together.
Absolutely. And I see a thread in...
You mustn't say only DMRC. Like, there are so many lines of railways in Delhi. And every time, DMRC is either going under the railway or over the railway. So actually we need to work in sync, and this is a very good tool in which different agencies can come together and sort out these problems and create. मतलब जो हमारी पुरानी institutional files है, they are very sort of rich in information, पर अब ये information अलग-अलग systems में चली गई.
Yes.
तो वो हमें कोलिएट करके इकट्ठा करके उसका कुछ सेंस या मीनिंग निकालना, I think that is a path which GIS can take and help the governments to store their information and make a meaning out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely, ma'am. And when you spoke, I could see a thread in all the points that all the four speakers or panelists have touched upon, starting from Abhineet, who spoke about a policy. Good that we have the new draft geospatial policy and the guidelines out, which is a much better step from where we were, and it has really opened up the industry's potential to do mapping and do data collection, and also it really encourages the government to government kind of institutional collaboration, but also talking about the technology availability and the fact that we need to not work in silos and start now integrating data. So that's something that you both, Mr. Rahman, and you have spoken about, and which is a very important part, and that's where I think Mr. Rao would agree with me that ESRI is a kind of an organization that can actually help in creating a kind of a hub, even if it is with different organizations, speaking to each other and how they can do it, especially when it comes to utility lines and infrastructures like bridges or railways or metro lines, cutting across the cities. So now we are at the end of the panel, and I would just like to give an opportunity for a closing remark to all our speakers. So starting with you, ma'am, any closing remarks, any feedback to the industry or any expectation, what would you like to say?
I think, Megha, this is a very nice effort by you people to bring, different agencies together. So what I would like to say is that you should work like a cement, because there are different technologies and we are also confused. That sometimes we are working in Primavera, sometimes we are going to Revit, sometimes, suddenly there is a wave that people are plugging for GIS, then there is, Archi, sort of software. So we are quite confused that which is the best combination. या क्या प्लग इन कर सकते हैं उसको, या उसको कैसे डिफरेंट सॉफ्टवेयर्स को इकट्ठा करके हम अलग अलग को यूज कर सकते हैं. दैट इज द प्लेस दैट इज चैलेंजिंग एंड कंफ्यूजिंग अस, एंड दैट इज वेयर यू शुड सॉर्ट ऑफ डू अ कंज्यूमर सॉर्ट ऑफ अवेयरनेस कि हम इन सारी टेक्नोलॉजीज को कैसे प्लग इन करके इकट्ठा यूज कर सकते हैं, सो दे ऑल ऑफ देम आर ऑफ अ मीनिंग.
Absolutely. That's a very, very good point, ma'am.
No, exactly. You spend money, 10 lakh, you buy that software, 10 lakh, you buy that software. Then I have a computer on my table, double screen, another thing with all these things. Tomorrow another technology will come, then what will happen to that? I mean,
yes.
And it is sometimes so difficult learning so many new things. I mean, I'm being very frank. I hope everybody agrees with me.
No, absolutely.
But
Yes. User awareness, and actually the industry has to take a lot of role and initiative in making people aware, and also in a kind of not only from the sales point of view.
ये नहीं है कि अगली टेक्नोलॉजी आ गई और पिछली को आप बस्ते में बंद कर दो. Not that. We must say if the new technology has come, how we can best build. It has to be sort of pitched in, both of them.
Absolutely, very good point, ma'am. Mr. Rao, any concluding words, remarks, or response to Madam what she said?
Yeah, maybe Isri can definitely try to reach out to her and explain and probably help her in concluding that. But now coming on to this side, which I feel if the geospatial has to be adopted in successfully in any organization, not only Indian Railways, this needs to be a part of their business process, or it should be part of their workflow. And that's where actually it will help the adoption of this technology. And if that adoption doesn't happen, we may just land up creating maps and nothing else. So this is which I feel that the geospatial technology has to be taken in as one of their systems where, today you're using Word. Without Word, Excel life doesn't go. So the geospatial should become a parcel of these systems. And since every part or every engine of the railways is a location based, and that's where the importance of location and GIS actually helps you in doing that particular location enablement. So that's where I feel every organization should work in for integrating geospatial as part of their business process, which actually should help them and trigger in getting what they want. Then only it will help them in decision making. Otherwise, we have seen many things which are coming in and they just become a static maps.
Absolutely.
And one thing again, this is definitely data hungry. You have to keep on updating the information. Otherwise, the system will automatically die. So these are two things which I feel the organization should take care of.
Good points. Absolutely. And yes, I do believe that what Rahman sir has spoken about so extensively, it is actually now a part of their business process. And, we hope that more users do think this way, what you have spoken, to make it a part of their workflow. It's like a Word document that you can't do without. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Mr. Rahman, any concluding words, thoughts, or response to what other panelists have said? Sir, you're muted.
Megha?
Ji.
Will it be going for longer?
No, ma'am, we're concluding.
Okay, because otherwise I'll get late getting home.
Ma'am, just 2 minutes. We are just concluding.
Okay.
So whatever we have discussed so far, it comes out that technology per se will change definitely, but we have to adapt to the needs, and we have to see which technology is better. And there are people available who can guide us. And basically, a lot of information you can also gather. Otherwise, also there are so many means to gather it. Only thing we have to keep us alive to the requirement, and the organizational goal we must keep in mind. That is what I really think about it, the use of GIS in our systems. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very valuable point. We have to keep alive to the organizational goal when we are implementing technology. So the last word with you, Abhineet. Any concluding?
I would like to really commend both Mr. Rahman and Dr. Kalsi. I was enlightened today, and really great to see the systems and what you guys have done. I come from geospatial background, so I'm particularly excited seeing it in action. So really praiseworthy and commendable. Thank you to Megha as well for interfacing the government and the industry. There's no formal process as such. In Singapore, it's a very formal process where the government or that organization invites both parties, including academia, startups, and all that ecosystem, and they provide that interface. So AGI, praiseworthy what you guys are doing. It is my standing offer to both of you, Mr. Rahman and Dr. Kalsi. We as an industry are always happy to come over, make a pitch, not only from a sales standpoint, but more like understanding what you guys are trying to do. And this is our consultative process, is not always trying to, if we are from a satellite industry, we are trying to, push satellite in everywhere. Whatever we can do, we pitch it. But to understand, and this is my experience, when a problem comes to us, we try to solve it. Many times, it's not just the technology that we work with, but it's about solving that problem. And I can give you many examples, but due to time restriction, I would say give us an opportunity. We'll definitely, it's my commitment and standing offer to come and kind of share our experience with you all. So thank you again, and stay safe. I hope things improve sooner. I hear news, and it's not always good to do this Zoom meeting. Yeah. I would really love to see travel happen. I used to come to India practically every month, if not every month, then every 2 months. I'm really looking forward to meeting you all.
Yes,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abhineet. And yes, we all look forward to now meeting. Next time we meet in person. Thank you, everyone, for your presence, for your valuable thoughts and insights. Thank you once again, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Namaskar.